Indian Wells has forever stood as that brutal proving ground where the tennis universe exposes uncomfortable realities, right there beneath the sprawling California desert sky. Mighty dynasties have been forged in that heat, whole empires have crumbled to dust, and occasionally, the absolute finest on the planet are forced to stare down the harsh truth glowing on the scoreboard, a bitter pill that Carlos Alcaraz was just forced to swallow. The reigning king of the world rankings strolled into the semifinals of the Masters 1000, riding a wave of momentum that felt utterly unstoppable. 16 back-to-back triumphs in 2026, 2 shiny trophies already secured, and an overwhelming aura suggesting that whenever he stepped onto the court, the entire tour lagged helplessly behind. Yet this sport, as it has viciously proven time and time again, ruthlessly punishes even the slightest hint of complacency, and Daniil Medvedev crashed the party wielding a terrifying level of play that caught even Alcaraz completely off guard. Unleashing pure aggression from the very first rally, striking with lethal precision, he carried a ferocious resolve that methodically dismantled the Spanish prodigy's entire game plan. The final verdict was absolute destruction, 6-2 and 7-6. A crushing defeat that instantly shattered the Phenom's flawless run for the season. The true drama, however, unfolded only after the final ball was struck. Refusing to hide behind flimsy excuses, Alcaraz delivered a profound confession that perfectly captures the crushing burden of wearing the global crown. He confessed his utter exhaustion from carrying a massive target on his back, 24/7, a haunting statement summing up the brutal new landscape of the tour. Because the moment a player ascends to the absolute peak, every single challenger hungers to be the one who brings them down, a role Medvedev embraced flawlessly in the desert. For a massive chunk of the tour, the young Spaniard had projected this invincible aura, making it seem as though the entire men's circuit orbited solely around him. He kicked off 2026, radiating a supreme authority that echoed the legendary winning streaks of the sport's greatest historical titans. Securing the Australian Open crown set a terrifyingly dominant tone for his opening campaign. Then followed his magnificent conquest in Doha, paving the way to Indian Wells, a battleground practically tailor-made for his explosive style. Destiny seemed locked on yet another championship clash until Medvedev materialized from the shadows, absolutely starving for bloody vengeance. Having suffered agonizing back-to-back final defeats against Alcaraz at this very venue in 2023 and 2024, the Russian mastermind recognized this semifinal as his ultimate chance to rewrite history. Right from the opening game, a completely transformed Medvedev stepped up, wildly aggressive, laser-focused, and incredibly fearless. Gone was the player who merely camped behind the baseline absorbing pace like he had in their past encounters. This time, he chose violence, suffocating the returns, hunting for blistering winners at every sniff of an opening, and stunning everyone by storming the net to execute the kills. That brilliant tactical pivot changed everything, leaving the young king, who usually thrives on dictating grueling rallies, feeling completely alienated and out of rhythm. The challenger viciously robbed him of the time needed to engineer his signature plays, turning the opening set into a flawless mirror of this tactical hijacking. Hurling deep, venomous strikes and returning with surgical precision, the Russian forced the reigning champion into a desperate, never-ending sprint chasing shadows. Every single baseline war seemed to inevitably tip in the underdog's favor, a blatant superiority that the scoreboard ruthlessly confirmed. 6-2, a brutal opening statement, yet the truly alarming part was the overwhelming sense of dread radiating from the court. Throughout the slugfest, the beleaguered champion desperately sought counsel from his coaching box, his frantic words laying bare a system completely short-circuiting. He complained about losing all feel for the ball, utterly bewildered by the mind-bending returns his opponent kept firing back. From the sidelines, his coach Samuel Lopez tried desperately to anchor him, noting that the Russian was playing out of his mind and urging his player to just weather the storm. A stark admission of the undeniable reality. The Russian was operating on an absolutely supernatural plane, yet the fiercely proud champion refused to simply lay down his weapons. That relentless grit defines the prodigy's core. Even as the walls cave in, he frantically searches for an escape route. The second set stood as a testament to that fighting spirit, as he tweaked his court positioning, scrambled the trajectories, and finally sparked some lethal magic with his forehand. Fleeting moments hinted at a miraculous turning of the tide, but his relentless adversary refused to surrender even 1 millimeter of ground. Whenever a reigning king falls, the post-mortem almost instinctively obsesses over the unforced blunders, the blown chances, or the messy variables of the matchup. But the fallen champion actively chose an entirely unscripted path. He offered zero cop-outs, completely ignored the fatigue card, and refused to blame the desert conditions, choosing instead to embrace the raw, unfiltered truth. Confessing his weariness of wearing a perpetual bullseye, he dropped a truth bomb that was equally jarring and deeply illuminating. Sitting upon the iron throne of global tennis demands an excruciatingly steep toll. Every gladiator across the net treats the clash as their singular shot at eternal glory, completely warping the emotional and tactical fabric of the duel. Challengers roll the dice with reckless abandon, playing utterly devoid of fear to touch godlike levels they practically never unlock against mere mortals. That exact phenomenon exploded in the desert, as the stunned Spaniard confessed he had never witnessed such unreal, otherworldly shot-making from his rival. Showering his conqueror with the highest praise, he freely admitted the Russian had absolutely dominated from the first serve to match point, earning every ounce of the victory. He called the performance purely breathtaking from start to finish. Such raw honesty speaks volumes about the young legend's fierce warrior spirit, while silently unveiling the terrifyingly heavy crown he now bears. Stepping onto the court against the world's top-ranked player automatically turns an ordinary match into a high-stakes championship battle, a reality that Daniil Medvedev openly confessed to after the final point was played. Taking down Carlos Alcaraz requires nothing short of absolute perfection on the hardwood. That was precisely the monumental feat the Russian star accomplished, delivering a masterclass performance that left spectators in awe. His serves were executed with the ruthless precision of a surgeon. Meanwhile, his backhand transformed into an impenetrable fortress at the baseline, and his aggressive returns relentlessly tortured the Spanish prodigy. It was a devastatingly toxic combination that left no room for survival. Midway through the dramatic second set, the young Spaniard found two golden windows to rewrite the match's destiny. Holding a crucial 5-4 lead, he commanded a pair of set points that could have forcefully dragged the clash into a third chapter. Yet, the Russian powerhouse simply tapped into his trademark icy veins. He calmly erased the danger during those nerve-wracking moments, pushing the battle into a decisive tiebreak where he completely suffocated any lingering hope. Seizing absolute control of the sudden death, he rocketed to a commanding 6-1 advantage before serving out the victory. As the dust settled, the tennis world recognized they had just witnessed a legendary, career-defining masterpiece from the victor. Looking past the immediate scoreboard, this explosive Indian Wells semifinal paints a highly revealing picture for the grueling months ahead on the professional tour. The most glaring takeaway needs no deep analysis. Daniil Medvedev has officially resurrected his elite status. For months, the towering athlete had been desperately hunting for the vanished magic that once crowned him global king and secured his glorious United States Open triumph. Guided by a revamped coaching squad heavily influenced by the tactical brilliance of Sweden's Thomas Johansson, his game has locked onto a lethal new trajectory, and the sheer hardware proves it. Long before stepping into the California desert, he had already conquered the courts in Dubai and Brisbane. By violently snapping the Spanish sensation's reign, he effectively strung together an intimidating 9-match winning streak, screaming to the locker room that he is once again the ultimate threat. Furthermore, the psychological weight of this triumph cannot be overstated, considering he had not tasted victory against his younger rival since their epic clash at the 2023 United States Open. Over that span, the dynamic Spaniard had ruthlessly dictated their head-to-head encounters. While the overall numbers still lean slightly toward the phenomenon from Murcia, the atmospheric shift is undeniable. The resilient challenger has loudly proven he can trade heavy blows with the alpha dog, injecting a terrifyingly fresh element of chaos into the race for future major glory. The secondary revelation stemming from this desert warfare centers squarely on the defeated king himself. Despite tasting bitter defeat, his ongoing campaign remains nothing short of a spectacular highlight reel. Boasting 16 consecutive conquests, capturing 2 massive trophies, and maintaining a relentless stranglehold on the deepest rounds of elite tournaments paints the picture of a true dominator. Even while packing his bags, the prodigy managed to extract a massive psychological edge, boldly noting that adversaries are now acutely aware they must summon godlike abilities just to scratch him. Essentially, the reigning champion is fully aware that his personal baseline acts as the terrifying gold standard for every other professional holding a racket. Taking his crown requires opponents to play the match of their lives, yet existing on that unapproachable pedestal creates a grueling, never-ending target on his back. Every single competitor walking through those stadium tunnels arrives armed with a dangerous, nothing-to-lose ferocity. Routine matches warp into bloodbaths, transforming every event into an agonizing gauntlet of psychological and physical endurance, with the imminent showdown looming in Miami. Following the Florida heat, the grueling European clay awaits Monte Carlo, Barcelona, Madrid, Rome, culminating in the Parisian battleground of Roland Garros, a vicious sequence guaranteed to forge the year's ultimate destiny. The burning question echoing through the stadiums is impossible to ignore. Did the California desert merely host a fleeting stroke of Russian genius, or are the tectonic plates of the tennis hierarchy fundamentally shifting? The fallen champion's stumble is far more profound than just a snapped winning streak. It serves as a violent, sobering wake-up call, highlighting the crushing burden of wearing the absolute heaviest crown in sports. Occupying that sacred throne warps every outing into a unique nightmare. The man across the net is no longer just another player. He represents a possessed, violently motivated version of himself, fueled by the collective hunger of an entire locker room desperate to watch the mighty king bleed. And under the blinding stadium lights this time, the towering Russian was the assassin who finally landed the lethal strike. Yet amid the rubble of his loss, the Spanish icon dropped a haunting piece of wisdom that will echo for months, declaring that his enemies now understand the terrifying price of taking his life on the court. That bold statement hides a brutally demoralizing reality for the chasing pack. If absolute perfection is the bare minimum requirement to topple him, it undeniably proves that the terrifying ceiling constructed by the prodigy remains almost completely out of reach. The global tour is currently plunging into its most cutthroat chapter, with the humid intensity of Miami rapidly approaching. The brutal clay court warfare is aggressively marching forward, promising that the most savage conflicts of the year are yet to detonate, leaving a lingering mystery in the air. Are fans currently witnessing the violent birth of a legendary, blood-feud rivalry between these two titans of the sport? Or was it merely a mystical, unrepeatable alignment of the stars for the Russian veteran? More importantly, the sporting world is left wondering if the suffocating weight of the crown is finally fracturing the young champion's spine. Spectators are encouraged to drop their fiercest debates in the comments section, as the gripping narrative here at Breakpoint News never truly fades to black.